Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic. You guys have heard about it. You've thought about it. It's been in your hearts, your dreams. It's dead. It's gone. It's left the building. It is gone forever. So real quick, I'll put the video in chat so you guys can go send Mr.MattyPlays some love. I've mentioned Matty plenty of times before. He's a friend of the channel, makes some amazing stuff. Matty straight up has one of the best work ethics of any creator I know. The dude is a machine. Can't recommend him enough. You know, we have our disagreements on stuff. He tends to be very like forgiving to a lot of Bethesda stuff, for example, and a lot of the time he can kind of be a glass is half full type of person, whereas I'm like, I don't care if it's half full or half empty, it's just half of a glass, like whatever, you know. So he offers a very different perspective than I do, but that's one of the reasons I like him, because he makes me think differently as well. And in this video, he goes, or I'm assuming is going to go through kind of what's going on with it. But basically, Matty's a hardcore fan of Knights of the Old Republic, and when they announced a remake, you know, he was very, very giddy, very, very excited, as were many, many other people as well. But then to hear that it's been canned and is on ice at the very least, he's probably not doing too hot. So we're gonna see what he says, but I'm expecting a very animated opening. I'm expecting. Without further ado, let's see what Mr. Matty has to say. Here we go. Oh, it is the Dark Knight music.
Unbelievable.
I'm laughing, and many of you think I'm probably losing my mind. I'm laughing because I'm thinking about the collective incompetency on display, and it's hilarious to me, because it's easy to just point at one company, right? Just be like, man, what are you doing? But we got Disney, Sony, Embracer, Aspire, Saber. You want to throw it back even further when I was campaigning, BioWare. That's a long list. In a day and age of remakes where the blueprint is so simple. Here's the game. Let's do it again. It's right there. You're not even making a new thing. It's right there.
I mean, most of this seems to be tied up in Embracer Group, honestly. If you're not familiar with Embracer, basically they're a massive publishing house. They own tons of studios, and they were expecting to get a $2 billion paycheck from the Saudi Arabian investment fund. And that deal fell through, so they didn't get their $2 billion payday, but they had made a bunch of acquisitions and greenlit projects expecting to have $2 billion in cash that they all of a sudden weren't getting. So they canceled a ton of stuff, downsized a bunch of studios, fired a ton of people, canceled many, many projects, and it seems like this game is one of them. So I'm not familiar with the details. Hopefully Matty goes through them, but my understanding is that most of this is because of that Saudi Arabian deal falling it through and then missing out on that $2 billion that they were expecting.
And we still find a way to absolutely blow it.
If I'm ever promised money, I wait until that money's in my bank before I go and spend it all. Yeah, it's straight up like in The Office when Michael Scott thinks that he's getting that bonus check, and so he goes and spends all the money on a fur coat from Burlington Coat Factory. And then as he's walking out, he gets fake blood dumped on him, and so the coat's ruined, and then it turns out he doesn't actually have the money in his bank account, so he overdrafted and all sorts of stuff. It really is Michael Scott. Yeah. I think there's no excuse for it on the manager's side. I mean, they probably were told by the representatives for the investment fund, oh, the deal is like locked and loaded. We're definitely going through and yeah, this is closing. And so they were going off of that, and they started making moves to greenlight projects they thought were going to be really profitable using that money. But then the deal fell through for a handful of reasons. And part of it is because, you know, there's a bunch of other things that have tied into it. Some people think that the failure of the Saints Row reboot really made Saudi Arabia question the partnership and back out, because that was also an Embracer Group launch. So perhaps, you know, all of this is because of Saints Row, because that caused their reputation to tank so badly that they backed out of it with the Saudi Arabian government. It could have also just been that because of interest rates going up so precipitously, the Saudi Arabian government thought that investments elsewhere were just going to be more profitable, so they backed out. Who knows? Who knows? We don't know the paperwork. We don't know what the contingencies in the contracts were like, but I can't think of a situation where, at the very least, the managers were irresponsible in greenlighting so much stuff before they had the money. Like, it's ridiculous to spend hundreds of millions of dollars on acquisitions before you can actually pay for it. It's
incredible. Ridiculous. I know many people are going to stumble upon this video. These YouTubers. So reactionary for the view.
Look where we are. This is meta.
No. If you don't know what KOTOR means to me, you problem, not me. Someone down below will explain it to you, or this.
Yeah, like I said, Matty talks about KOTOR all the time. And he has since I started watching him back in I think I started watching Matty, no joke, back in 2012 or 2013. Like when I started watching Matty, his stuff, let me see if I can find I don't know if he still has the videos up even. So like this is from 2014. I was watching Matty before even this. This video is from 9 years ago in 2014. And I had been watching Matty for a long time. I think I remember when this video actually came out. And it was just him reacting to one of these...
You got all your turns.
Dude, your camera's...
One of these 12-year-olds that's pretending like they have Fallout 4 already, and it's just straight up Fallout 3.
reversed. Like, anything you bring up is backwards.
Look what Grandpa did. I got this thing in my room, and he decided to put it in the game, and it just saved, dude. And I'm like, what's up, man?
I'm like, what's up, man?
I remember that.
He's dead serious. Yeah, they're focusing on the story, so they literally carbon copied all Fallout 3.
You guys, if you guys like this video and favorite it and subscribe to me, I'm gonna get Grandpa to tell me some more about this game. I'll post more videos.
Dude, golden age of content right here. So yeah, I've been watching Matty forever, and ever since this, he was putting stuff out talking about Knights of the Old Republic. It's like one of the first games he fell in love with. So for him to get a remake greenlit, he was like giddy and so excited. And now to hear that it's dead again is just like, man, yeah, I'm gonna ask Grandpa to get me more details about the game. It's like, man, some kid really was like, oh yeah, this'll get the views. This'll do it.
This video will convey it to you. But this is first recording, just firing it up. I'm getting a lot off my chest. I have so much naturally to say. We do have a sponsor for today's video. We have to roll it for this video. So apologies if it's abrupt, but it's probably the brightest spot of this video because of who it is. I'm very excited about it. So let's get into today's sponsor and then get into the rest of the news. The following video is sponsored by Atlas. Persona 5
Atlas, Matty with the big sponsorship.
Tactica comes out on November 17th on Xbox Series X and S, Xbox One, Windows PC, PS4, PS5, Nintendo Switch, and Steam. You all know how much I love Persona. You can just check the history across Mr.MattyPlays and Retro Rebound. I adore this series. So when Atlas reached out and said, hey, you mind just showcasing a little bit of Persona 5 Tactica? Absolutely. For those who don't know, Persona 5 Tactica is a turn-based strategy game, meaning movement and positioning is key. One such example of this
I
is
haven't
the brand new
actually really
mechanic
looked at
introduced
this game,
which is called Triple Threat, where all three of your squad...
It actually does look kind of fun. It's like the Super Mario Rabbids kind of spin-off game, but with Persona art and stuff. Could be fun. Have any of you guys played it? Is it good? I feel so bad for him because of how hype he has been for years. Yeah, he gets in these spots where he will be super hyped for something, and then it just ends up kind of being like like Starfield, and now this. Yeah, I do feel bad a little. I do. Yeah. Okay, let's see.
Knights of the Old Republic remake is dead. That is the report. Comes from Jeff Grubb. We're gonna play the clip, and I'm just gonna tee off. Just gonna have a field day here, okay? I have spent every ounce of rational energy this week from the Game Awards discussion, just trying to be level-headed, be above the console war drivel. Reviewed a pretty disappointing game this week in Ultimate Storm Connections, just rationalizing there. Rationalizing what's going on with Call of Duty. I've spent every ounce of level-headed energy this week. Pardon me if I'm off my game for one video. Let's roll the clip, and then I'm gonna chat.
Oh, I want to see it unhinged, Matty. That's all I want in life.
Just want to clear it up. This game is not being worked on right now. Just full stop. Look, again, this game is not being worked on in any way at any studio. I looked into it a little bit. I mean, I don't think this is news to most of you. I think you guys could piece this together if you've been listening to this, and Sony like stepping away and scrubbing mentions of Knights of the Old Republic from social media and YouTube. You can put 2 and 2 together there, but just to 100% confirm it, this game is not being worked on right now.
Many of you are probably clicking in.
They just are not touching it. Oh baby, oops. Yeah, they really broke Matty. Well, we're gonna see. There's something like refreshing though about a YouTuber that's just honestly really passionate about something reacting to the news of it. So often it's really forced where creators are like, oh, now I'm gonna act really upset about the current state of Call of Duty, and you know, this is just so unacceptable, and they pretend to freak out and stuff. But for this, like, this is actually one of Matty's beloved games. Like, this is something he was really hyped for and pumped for, and so I'm sure this is a bad day for Matty.
And I know just how the internet works. I've done this for half my life. Why are you so surprised, Matty? Why are you so surprised, dude? Have you not seen what's going on in Embracer? For those who aren't caught up, Embracer, they are a huge games group, own a ton of studios, Aspire being one of them, original developers of KOTOR Remake.
And I mean, the big thing for Embracer right now is they own so many IP. Like, so many IP. That it's probably the most heartbreaking thing about all of it. Like, they own now, don't they own Red Faction? They own Saints Row, of course. They own Knights of the Old Republic. Like, they own so many. Well, I guess Disney probably technically still owns it, but there's so many cascading things that they own that now are just sitting on ice because they screwed up so many studios. Like, it's ridiculous.
There's a lot of problems there. I've covered them on the channel on how whatever they showed PlayStation and Disney, they did not like. People got fired over it. Project got moved over to Saber, right?
Imagine that. You have because what allegedly happened, again, it's not confirmed by them directly, but apparently they had like a prototype built of what they wanted to do. They brought it to Disney and they're like all excited to show Disney. And then they walk into the conference room, start showing executives. And then they just get fired. Like, this is so bad. You're all out of a job. Like, imagine how bad that must have been for them to just dump it. Like, it had to have been horrible, or just like not monetizable at all, or something. Like, I don't know how bad it must have been for them to just immediately start rolling heads. But man,
I remained optimistic about this because Saber is a proven studio. More proven than Aspire, quite frankly. Aspire did great work on the remasters for Star Wars games, and I could tell they really cared about KOTOR, and I was definitely a fan of them, knowing that they were a huge fan of me, and they were watching a lot of the content I put out on KOTOR, and so they were really connected with the community and the people who really cared about it. So I was one of their biggest advocates. Saber, I would also go to bat for because I was excited about this team who just seems to just pull it out of nowhere and make these games that don't match their studio identity. Like, they did the Witcher 3 Switch port, which was like impossible, but they did it and it came out great. They did World War Z, which just came out great. And I know these all aren't RPGs, if you will. Witcher 3 is, but they didn't make that, so to say. They just did something technically impressive, but that was a team worth believing in. You know, would it have been my first pick on my list? No, Larian would have been. Larian absolutely would be my first pick, and maybe there's hope for that yet. But
I don't think so. At this point, Larian is such a huge studio. They can pretty much make any demands they want. And if there's any IP they want to mess with, I think they're getting it. Maybe it's Star Wars, yeah. But I don't think they remake Knights of the Old Republic. I think they go and do something else entirely.
You know, following all of that, and you think to yourself, after what's happened with Embracer, they lost out on a $2 billion deal with Savvy Games Group. So they've been just falling through the floor level by level for weeks now. And they've shut down studios, canceled projects. People are getting laid off all over the place. It's a disaster. So with all that encapsulated, I provided every reason for you to ask the question, why did you ever have any dash of optimism about this project? Well, number one, pardon me for thinking what I think everyone else does. A remake is not as complicated of a game to make as an original new idea. The blueprint is right there. I can load up my original Xbox, fire KOTOR the fuck up, and look at it and be like, all right, we're gonna make this hallway in the terrace apartments. And it's gonna look just like, there's no concept art, mood boards, conveying visions, written, there's none of that shit. It's right there, right? So part of me, if step one, I thought this may be an easier task, but step two, Embracer, falling through the floor, laying off people, saving money where they can because they lost out on a massive deal. Okay, got it. But this is Star Wars we're talking about. If I'm Embracer and I'm looking at everything they're making, by the way, this is the team that has like, I'm talking like hundreds of developers, and they're working on all these little whatever mobile games. Yeah, I get why those may get the axe, but like when you're looking at Star Wars, to me, that's like a life vest, you know, keeps you afloat. If this hits, this might be a big one for us, which is why, for example, Dead Island 2 was such a huge blessing to Embracer because it was this surprise hit. And I've said time in, time out that if Dead Island 2 wasn't as good as it was and didn't perform as good as it did, that company also would have been axed, right? With KOTOR Remake, to see it passed around as long as it did, it's funny, Dead Island 2 does give me some hope because that game is awesome, that maybe KOTOR Remake will see the light of day one day under a new team and come out and actually be great.
I mean, so the first thing he says, where it's like direct, the groundwork's been laid, that it's absolutely true. I mean, remakes are, technically speaking, they should be easier than a ground up creation of a game, but that's because like the design doc is done, which if you're not familiar with game development, usually game development has like a single design doc. I think the original GTA one has been released. Yeah, I think it was originally called Race and Chase, but this is what a design doc looks like. So this is what game developers will do before they have the game, before everything, and they have it bullet pointed. So the goal is that you can hand this to, March 22nd, 1995. I think it was called Race and Chase originally before it was renamed Grand Theft Auto. So you should be able to take this document, read it, and walk away knowing what the game is, right? It's all of this stuff broken down. They describe technical aspects, what they need to develop, what they need to do, all of this stuff. And this is a lot of like creative direction. So when they're working on Starfield, this is the thing that Todd Howard is spending most of his time on, is building out this. And this is a very small one. This is 12 pages. Design docs for modern games are hundreds of pages long, okay? So for this, the design document is done. The quests are pretty much done. You might have to rewrite some stuff, but it's pretty much done. The world building, location selection, all that stuff is done. Like the creative work is mostly taken care of. But there's almost no reusable assets at all in this. This is not like The Last of Us Part 1 remake where you could just copy and paste over most of the assets and nobody could tell. In this, you are rebuilding absolutely everything. The running animations can't be saved. The narrative discussion system, none of that can be saved. The dialogue system has to be scrapped and started over. Everything has to be redone. So while yes, technically it should be easier than doing it from scratch, like you're only saving the money on the creative direction side of things because most of that's already done. Like the actual work of rebuilding absolutely everything still has to be done. And all the animations redone, and like it definitely is a bigger animal than you might think. How long do those things take normally? The design docs, you mean? Well, the design docs are usually what's done by like the creative director and a team of a few people and game designers. And then they take that to a small team of maybe 20, 30 people, and they build out prototypes. And then they build out with those prototypes a vertical slice. And then they take that vertical slice to a publisher and pitch the game with that vertical slice. You remember that original trailer for God of War when Kratos steps out and is like, "Boy, we are going hunting. Which way? In the direction of deer." Like that whole thing, that was a vertical slice. At that point, God of War as a game basically didn't exist. They had that sequence we saw in the trailer and nothing else at all. And then over the course of 18 months to 2 years, they built out pretty much everything else. Just go watch that Raising Kratos documentary and they'll kind of break it down for you. It's really, really cool. But that's typically how game design works, is they have the design document, then they go prototype, and then they go vertical slice, and then they go from vertical slice to a full game. And in this case, you have the design doc basically done. Everything else still has to be done. And so it's not as simple as just swap out some assets, because nothing of the original game could be reused. All of the voice acting, all of the animations, everything would have to be redone.
Two reasons why I was optimistic. Now, all of this news is built off the back of what had dropped yesterday, where you'll see here IGN reports Embracer boss tight-lipped on MIA Star Wars Knights of the Republic remake. During a financial presentation, Embracer CEO Lars Wingefors remained tight-lipped when asked how he was feeling about the KOTOR remake. Quote, "I notice anything I say to this becomes a headline, so that is my only comment," end quote. Furthermore, before all of this,
shouldn't that tell him that that's worth investing in, though? Like, if he says anything about this game, it'll be everywhere, all over the internet. Then make the freaking game. Make it a priority. Like, that has got to be the wake-up call, wouldn't you think? Yeah, Meowtro, think how bad your vertical slice has to be to get fired and then have your entire studio removed from the project. Yeah, because that's basically what happened is they had the design doc, they made the prototype, and then they made the vertical slice, brought that to executives, and then they were fired. Like, it must have been bad.
Trailers have been taken down. Social media presence has been removed for the KOTOR remake. So you'll see here, PlayStation actually addressed that, calling it a normal part of business. Sony is assuring concerned fans that it only scrubbed the KOTOR Remake trailers from its YouTube channel because of an expired music license. As part of normal business, we delist assets with licensed music when the licenses expire. Meaning that, as I reported, this game was supposed to come out way sooner, and it has been in absolute turmoil for a while now.
Well, yeah, exactly. I mean, it's like, who let the license expire and why? That's part of the problem. They shouldn't have let it expire in the first place if they were actively working on it and if they were trying to make this actually a thing. Like, somebody let that expire, probably because they're like, hey, listen, this thing's not coming out anytime soon. Let the licenses expire. Don't waste the money, and let's just move on. It doesn't actually quell the fears as much as you might have thought. Sony, tell you what.
I don't know who directly is to blame. I need the Jason Schreier level expose. I need to know who did what, who saw what and said, nah, no, we're not doing that. Sorry, but we're gonna fire people at Aspire. I need to know from top to bottom what is happening here. It's a personal investment, man, but it's also like, look.
Oh man, old school Matty. Look at that hair. Mr. Matty plays the locks. Oh, wow. We've all done this where like our first studio was in our bedroom and then it backs up. You have the bed in the background. There's just something like very nostalgic about it for me. Cause like my first studio was just in the corner of my bedroom. And in a lot of the videos, you could still see like my mattress in the corner and stuff. Or like after I moved into my first apartment, I had like the desk and then I faced, the wall was behind me, but just on the other side of the desk was my bed. It was just like a twin bed that laid out. And it was super, super, you know, janky, and the room was so crammed and everything. But at one point in college, my apartment was so small that in order to have my desk with like the cameras and the light set up for making my videos, I had to literally climb onto my bed and then around the desk to get down to like actually sit in the desk chair and film videos and stuff. It was so crammed. So yeah, these old school videos and stuff of like our first studios or apartments, they always make me really nostalgic. It's always funny to me.
I'll tell you a story, okay? I've been doing this for half my life. I'm 28. I've been doing this really for more than half my life, actually, because I've been doing it since I was at least 13 across multiple YouTube channels. And KOTOR was one of the games on this channel that you'll find old videos of me back in like 2013, 2014, just talking about, like, yo, can you remaster this? That was during the era of HD remasters. I was just calling for like ports. And then there was talk of a KOTOR remake or something being worked on at BioWare Austin in 2016. Naturally, we know, iced. Why I'm so downtrodden, disgusted, disappointed, deteriorating, whatever other D word you want to attach to it, why I am this way is because it has been such a unexcusably long road to this, okay? And I'll play the victim for 1 second here. I get to watch the whole industry. Everyone's getting their remakes. Everyone's getting their remasters. When it's our time, us KOTOR fans, somehow we forget how the fuck to do it. That's why I want to know what happened.
I mean, I think it's, I would imagine it's just really tough to remake an MMO. It's not that easy. Are there any other MMOs that have been remade? Does anyone know? I can't think of any remade MMOs. Like, I just don't think it's that simple. Is it an MMO? Am I mixing up with something else? What is it officially classed? Is it just like a massive RPG? So I guess if it doesn't have any online elements, then it should be easier. It's still a massive game. So I mean, that should be easier, but I mean, I guess if it's a big RPG, it's still probably like difficult, but yeah, certainly easier than I was thinking. I was thinking all this time, like as we're looking at it, like, oh man, all the networking code involved in it, that's going to be a nightmare and very expensive, but I can see why they do it because it would probably print money. But no, if it's just like a CRPG, like it's still difficult to do. There's still a lot to do, but like KOTOR is single player, the Old Republic is the MMO. Oh, okay. Then maybe that's where I got it mixed up. Knights of the Old Republic is a CRPG. The Old Republic is the MMO. Okay, now I feel less stupid. Okay.
What was so bad that we had to scrap it? And look, my optimistic take, the only shred of decency I got for you in this video is that maybe we dodge a bullet here, in that what would hurt more, many people are asking, that the game never sees the light of day or that we get something awful. And I would rather no than not at all. That is my answer to you. I would rather have an idea when it comes out and go, that didn't work out. And it would suck, but at least I know. At least I'm aware now. Versus it never happening at all and just getting robbed of a potential full circle moment for me. The reason I love games, going into Circuit City, I read choose your own adventure books all the time. I'd never played an RPG before, so I didn't know this genre existed. I always said, I wish there was a video game that did what choose your own adventure books.
Oh man, those good old game manuals. I miss that. For me, I'd go to like GameStop because I couldn't afford to buy them new. So go into GameStop, get a used copy, and they always had the game manuals in. Those were the days, man. What a tragedy we don't have that anymore.
I see in the $10 bin at Circuit City, Platinum hits Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic. I love Star Wars, right? Early 2000s is the era of like Revenge of the Sith, Attack of the Clones, Phantom Menace, right? So, of course, Star Wars, yeah, pick it up. And I fire it up and it's there. You create your own character. I'm like, yeah, this is the choose your own adventure game I always wanted, AKA an RPG. But this game also, beyond any nostalgia I have, this game deserves a remake. It absolutely does. There still, in my humble opinion, isn't a better Star Wars game, a better Star Wars story than what's in the first KOTOR. If you were to sit down, we're in a room, Mr. Matty, list your perfect stories in entertainment. I wouldn't think, because that list is only 2 items. Number 1, Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic. Wouldn't change a thing. 2, Death Note. List ends there. There are candidates. Last of Us is one that comes to mind. For the part 1, I mean. But this game is timeless.
As somebody who has not played this, I will say that what is on screen, without nostalgia factoring in, because again, I'd never played it, I don't have the nostalgia. What's on screen right now clearly has aged very, very poorly, which is why, you know, a remake for this would be more difficult than for like The Last of Us Part 1, because you cannot reuse animations, you can't reuse assets, everything would have to be redone.
Few mainstream representations we have of the Old Republic, beyond the aging MMO that I do like, but is not.
The Old Republic, this is probably why I was thinking that, because I think earlier he showed footage of this, of the Old Republic, and I just like passively was like, oh, so it's the same game.
What I fell in love with, and what many people fell in love with. Since I know many developers and people working at these companies who are making this game watch my video, I am not in the understanding mood right now. I don't give a shit if emotions are high. Get your shit together. It's fucking Star Wars, and it's a fucking remake, dude. I really don't think anyone needs to spell it out for you. I'm a game developer. I know this shit is not easy. I know it's not, but look, let's stop acting like we don't have the blueprint to success right there. And so help me God, if I hear in a report that it's because we wanted some movie game instead of just the janky little RPG that KOTOR is, I will lose my mind. But please, get it together. It's inexcusable how long this rumor mill has been churning for upwards of a decade now. It's inexcusable. This is how long we've carried on for with a KOTOR remake, just lingering, and it gets finally announced, and nothing, man. And it felt like a recipe for success, man. It really did. You had PlayStation backing it, who I think you can believe in PlayStation because they're known for quality. They're a good publisher at the...
Except for live service games. They're not very good at that.
Bare minimum. Thought there was something there. And I even took Xbox to task when I had learned that they passed on this project. I'm like, that's your heritage, bro. This was an OG Xbox exclusive. What are you doing?
Maybe, just maybe though, like let's play devil's advocate just a little bit, because you know it's me and I gotta do that. The first prototype vertical slice thing that they showed to executives was so bad they basically fired the whole team. And then the next team that starts working on it, it gets put on ice and they kind of set it aside. It very well could be that it's just these teams are not capable of getting this remade to the standard that would be demanded of a modern Star Wars game. And it's like Matty said earlier, would you rather like not see it come to the light of day and just leave it where it is? Or would you like to get a broken pile of garbage or just something that's not as good as you remember? Like it very well could be that the team just is not capable of doing it. It's not that far out of question. Because again, like we're talking about Embracer Group, who has struggled to put out anything of quality consistently in the last like 5 years. They might get one hit every once in a while, like with Dying Light 2 or something, or Dead Island 2 rather. But beyond that, like they tend to really, really struggle. For every hit, there's 5 flops, or maybe 2 flops or 1 flop, and then a handful of mediocre titles that might break even a little bit. Like I would not put a lot of confidence in them to just figure it out and put it together. Of course, if Larian was doing it, okay, yeah, you can be confident it's going to be amazing. But if Larian were doing it, I don't think they'd remake it. I think that they would go and make their own, which I think would honestly probably be better, but that's just me.
And I wonder about the outcomes there. What happens if Xbox gets involved? Who is to blame here? I guess at the end of the day, that doesn't really matter. That's where my emotions are talking, right?
Society.
At the end of the day, we need to get it together, okay? We need to figure this out.
Get it together.
Team, let's figure it out and get this back on track.
This is so funny because those of you listening in the stream clips will not realize this, but I said at the top of the stream when we were talking about Pokimane and the cookie thing. I was like, I have a few big pet peeves, like the talking down like to your audience like they're really stupid. That drives me crazy. The like eating with your mouth open drives me crazy. Big pet peeve. Long fingernails on dudes that are like really gross and like yellowed and stuff. It freaks me out. And then the other thing that drives me crazy is like the clapping on sentences where it's like, get your crap together. I can't stand it. I can't stand it. In this context, it's funny because Maddie's freaking out and I love the passion. I love seeing it. But it is funny that we were just talking about this and then he's doing it right here.
Who is to blame here? I guess at the end of the day, that doesn't really matter. That's where my emotions are talking, right? But at the end of the day, we need to get it together, okay? We need to figure this out. Team, let's figure it out and get this back on track. If not, embrace her, sell it off, ship it to someone who will come in and take good care of it. Larian, hello, please save us. Please save us. I'm not even saying that because of Baldur's Gate 3. I'm saying that because of Divinity Original Sin. I'm saying this because of the absolute legacy of incredible RPGs you made. Larian, you are our only hope. Save us, dude, please, because I don't know who else this kid's
you're
handed
my
off
only
to
hope.
who can actually do a good job and make sure they're communicating with fans and doing the right thing. I've gone on long enough. Thank you for tolerating me this video. I know I don't behave this way often. I'm sure for many of you it's sobering. Like, wow, just let them have it. But seriously, I'm not in the rationalization type mood. This is ridiculous. And maybe it was just the straw that broke the camel's back. Sure, all the signs are written on the wall. I'm not denying that. But this is ridiculous. So thank you for tolerating me. Thank you for just listening and letting me tee off. I hope it was, at least for you KOTOR fans out there, cathartic. Because I'm out here trying to fight for you too. Like, I know I'm no hero. I'm not trying to act like one. I'm not the main character here, bro. I'm not trying to be one. I'm just trying to use my platform to push to these developers and publishers that we want this thing, and we wanted it yesterday. There was a KOTOR 3 that was canceled. Like, this should be the least cursed franchise, and somehow it is the most cursed franchise, next to Battlefront, which can't reach 3 for some reason, and DICE shut down support of that 3.5 years. Just ridiculous, man. I can't get over how they treat this series, man. It disgusts me at times. Like, Respawn is literally the beacon of hope right now in the midst of Star Wars games. I am looking forward to Star Wars Galaxies, but man, or whatever the hell they call it, fucking Star Wars, I don't know. My brain's shutting off now. The Ubisoft game, I'm done.
It's funny. I get like this sometimes. Like I did it with some Starfield videos where like the Creation Engine 2 video where I'm like, guys, it's a number 2 next to the Creation Engine. It's not magic. It's still the Creation Engine. Like this isn't math, rocket science, whatever. And it drives me crazy because people act like it's totally a new thing. And then the game came out and shock-a-doodle-doo. Luke was right. It's the same Creation Engine. Game still runs like crap. Oh, it's like we could have seen that coming if we thought critically. So like I'll get hyped up and high emotion with some topics, and like you start to lose your vision starts to tunnel in and you start to just stop making sense. So I've been where Maddie's at with this. I feel it. I feel you, bro. I think Disney's involvement with all this has made it probably far more difficult to get any of this done. I've spoken to a handful of people recently who have been involved in the production of games that like Disney's involved with the IP, and the level of hoops that they have to jump through really is crazy. Like if they want to add in, and I'll keep it vague of course, but if they want to add in a level, they have to go have a conference call scheduled with Disney people and get those ideas approved for what they want to do, and then they get art designed for it. They have to send that to Disney, get that approved. Disney might make alterations, so they have to redo it, and then they send that back. And then they're like, oh, and we need certain types of enemies to populate this, or vehicles, or whatever, or alien life or something. And so they have to send their concept art for that to Disney. Disney looks at it, says, nope, we don't like these don't work, send it back. They redo it, and it goes back and forth 3 times, and then they get it back, and then they're like, okay, so now let's build this out. Then they build it out in the game, and then they send that over for them to review. And this has to happen for literally every single thing in the game. Every single element of the game has to be approved like that. And that's why developing KOTOR way back in the day, pre-Disney acquisition, was not that big of a deal. Like, it was relatively straightforward. Now you have to jump through those Disney hoops, and Disney hoops are crazy. There's so much crap that you have to put up with. So it's really difficult for the devs to handle. And like, to defend Disney on this, Disney's doing it because they know what they have. They know that the Star Wars IP is iconic. And if they were to just let you do whatever you want, like we would play a Star Wars game and then all of a sudden, like, you look up and there's like I don't know what you would see. Like you just see something totally insane and out of place. Like there's just a straight up Taco Bell, space Taco Bell sitting on the corner of one of the city streets. And you're like, that seems weird. That seems odd. Huh. And it wouldn't click right, but it's because they didn't offer that oversight. And so Disney takes the steps to oversee everything and be involved actively with every element of it. And that can be a blessing and a curse because it protects the IP, but it also slows down production to a crazy, crazy extent. And this is one of the frustrations with it, I think, also, is that it makes it really hard to get these games across the finish line because it's just frankly not that easy to develop games under those standards, and demands.
He took my thing.